Hey, Professor Hitch here, and today I want to talk to you about psychoanalytic theory. With that in mind, let's get started. Psychoanalytic theory really strives to look at the origins of the unconscious. When we look at the world through a psychoanalytic lens, we see that it's comprised of individual human beings, each with a psychological history that begins in childhood and patterns of adolescent and adult behavior that are the direct result of that early experience. Psychoanalysis is the notion that human beings are motivated, even driven, by desires, fears, needs, and conflicts of which they are unaware. That is, the unconscious. A simple version for those of you that aren't psychology majors is that psychoanalysis relies on the basic premise that all of your current problems and destructive behaviors are the result of unresolved conflicts with your mom, dad, and siblings. The following slides, then, are all small parts of this one basic concept. Let's start with defenses. Our unconscious desire not to recognize or change our destructive behavior because we formed our identities around them and because we are afraid of what we will find out if we examine too closely are served by our defenses. Defenses are the process by which the contents of our unconscious are kept in the unconscious. To think about it in a practical way, the reason why you continue to procrastinate, even though you know it's a problem, there's a defense working there. There's something in your brain that's stopping you from moving to that next level and actually trying to study. These are some of the defenses that could be the culprit. You have something called selective perception, hearing and seeing only what we can handle. Selective memory, modifying our memories so that we don't feel overwhelmed. Denial, believing the problem just doesn't exist. Avoidance, staying away from people liable to make us anxious. Displacement, taking out our problems on someone less threatening. And projection, ascribing our fear onto something else. Dreams are another element of psychoanalysis. When we sleep, it's believed that our defenses don't operate in the same manner they do when we're awake. The message our unconsciousness expresses in our dreams is the dream's underlying message or latent content, but it's normally disguised in some way. What we actually dream, once the latent content has been disguised, is called the dream's manifest content, and it might be helpful to think about this like a kind of symbolism. Then you have the meaning of death. Death factors into psychoanalysis quite a bit. First and foremost, for many of us, the thought of our own deaths keys into our fear of abandonment, our fear of being alone. Death is the ultimate abandonment. Fear of death is thus often responsible, along with other reasons, for fear of intimacy. This is one of the ways we can see how death often results in a fear of life. That is, our fear of death, of losing our life, can result in our fear of being intimately attached to life. To think about this in another way, why form attachments if you know that 60 years down the road, you're both going to be dead anyway? That may sound kind of flippant for me to say that. We're going to be dead in 60 years anyway. But allow me the opportunity to read this paragraph to you and tell me if it doesn't summon up some kind of deep primal urge inside you, something you recognize. Someone is walking along the side of a dangerous cliff, on a narrow path, without a guardrail. He's anxious. It is not a straightforward fear that the path will give way. It looks firm enough. Or that a gust of wind might knock him over. The air is calm. It is a fear that he might willingly throw himself off and jump to his death. He doesn't trust himself. Many people have had an experience of vertigo akin to this. On one hand, looking into the abyss, we want to live. On the other hand, we become aware of our total freedom. We notice that the will to live is not an unchangeable part of our psychological makeup. the more we reflect on it, the more we realize that we are not bound by it. We become dizzy with the possibilities that open up before us. We could be reckless and jump for no reason at all. And that is what truly terrifies us. Another important element of psychoanalysis is sexuality. Sexual behavior is the product of our culture because our culture sets down the rules of proper sexual conduct and definitions of normal and abnormal sexual behavior. Without getting too crude in this lecture video, I just want to make the point that what you consider freaky might be somebody else's completely normal, and what somebody else considers completely normal might be your version of freaky. It's not universal. So, when you're writing a classical analysis paper, what's going on? Well, it stands to reason that you won't find every psychoanalytic concept represented in every literary work you read. It's just too complex. Our job, when we read psychoanalytically, is to see which concepts are operating in the text in such a way as to enrich our understanding of the work, and if we plan to write a paper about it, yield a meaningful, coherent psychoanalytic interpretation. Essentially, if you are going to write a psychoanalytic paper, the goal is not to see every concept, but just to see one and try to understand it in the story, in the novel, in the play, as much as you possibly can. Now, some critics have objected to the use of psychoanalysis to understand the behavior of literary characters because literary characters are not real people and therefore do not actually have psyches that can be analyzed. However, when we psychoanalyze literary characters, we are not suggesting that they are real people, but that they represent the psychological experience of human beings in general. They're symbols. And it is just as legitimate to psychoanalyze the behavior represented by literary characters as it is to analyze their behavior from other perspectives. Essentially, it's no more crazy than any of the other literary theories out there. And there you go. That is a basic intro to psychoanalytic criticism.